Welcome to Classical Chats. I'm Tiffany, I'm a classical pianist, also the host of this video series where I talk to all kinds of people who love classical music. I'm also the founder of Together with Classical. Today we have someone very interesting. David Cartolano is a physical therapist and specifically for musicians, and he's going to give some advice, his experience with musicians, and I think we will all learn a lot from him. So I'm excited. Hello.
Hey, how you doing, Tiffany?
Good. Nice to meet
My,
you.
yeah, it's so nice to meet you. Oh my goodness. I looked on your YouTube channel and I thought, oh my gosh, like she's next level. She is
No.
something else. Just the way you speak about things is it's absolutely incredible.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, seriously,
Okay.
super excited.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining Classical Chats. I mean, the reason I'm sorry I didn't really know about all the amazing work you've been doing with your organization, and just it's interesting to hear how you are using your background in physical therapy to help musicians, and I will go into that. But the only reason that I even know about what you're doing is because you reached out to me. So, um, thank you so much. So
Yeah, of
I look forward
course.
to learning about your journey with music or with classical music and how you transitioned into what you're doing now, which I think is helping so many people. So
Mhm.
that's my first question to you.
I love it.
How did you start your journey with music? It seems like this is the first question I ask every single guest. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So my journey with music started as a kid, as most of us, but it wasn't from a classical background. It was
Hmm.
actually from a folk background. My parents ran the folk choir at my church, and when you're a kid, you're always dragged there. You don't have a choice. You're there an hour before rehearsal, and you're there an hour after rehearsal. So music was just constantly in my upbringing. And what made it really cool was I don't remember when music started. There wasn't a start date. It
Hmm.
just was always there.
Mhm.
And I think what really made it special was my parents were like, okay, you know what? We're gonna put instruments all around the house, but we aren't going to tell our kids which ones to play. So we started picking up instruments over time, and I picked up guitar. I played clarinet first, and that was a nightmare of my poor band director. But I picked up the guitar, figured out I loved it, and then joined my parents, just playing gigs every single Sunday, constantly being in front of people, doing theater, dance, singing, shows, everything really. And that's really where it all began.
Hmm.
And I first found classical music, believe it or not. I think I was eating dinner with my high school girlfriend at her house, and they had a piano over in like the corner, and her older sister started playing something, and that piece of music was so beautiful. It was so sad and melancholic. It sounded like a 1950s movie with rain pattering against the windows.
Hmm.
And I thought, whoa, wait a minute. Like, what is that? Because as someone who grew up on the Beatles and the Beach Boys and, Ray Charles and all of this stuff, all of a sudden there was music that sounded different.
Hmm.
And later I realized it was Chopin's Opus 9 Nocturne 2, which is still to this day my favorite.
Ah, okay.
And that's how it all began. And
Ah.
yeah, I don't know if you want more into the physical therapy side of things, or
Oh, I'm fascinated
how.
by everything. Go ahead. Go share.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I
absolutely.
think it's kind of a very natural way, and kind of it's beautiful when people say it's kind of by accident in a way that they began their journeys with classical music. So it's nice. So then, how did you? I mean, you mentioned you played clarinet, but that didn't go so well, and then you kind of went to guitar. So then, how did you transition to what you're doing now, in a way?
Yeah, that's it's a long story. I'll try to compress it.
Thank
But
you.
what happened is I was studying, and I could never sit still in class. I was a musician. I loved being on stage. Math didn't make sense to me. So eventually went to a high school internship kind of program, and I found physical therapy. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's a stable job, and I get to be up on my feet and helping people all day. Yeah, I'll do it, no problem.
Hmm.
So I started studying physical therapy. And the more and more I studied physical therapy and still was playing gigs and doing shows with other musicians, the more I realized, whoa, like a lot of people are getting injured. A lot of people are getting hurt over and over again. And it's not like musicians are doing crazy things and jumping off of buildings with parachutes. They're just playing their instruments, but yet they're sustaining all of these injuries. What's going on with that? And it came to a point where I had my own injury
Mm.
in my right shoulder while I was playing guitar for the pit bands in Legally Blonde, not the real Legally Blondes, my college version.
Mm.
And I started realizing, wait a minute, if I'm having these problems and I'm only just playing guitar, I'm not like studying guitar. I'm not really getting into music and playing 4 to 5 hours a day.
Mm.
I'm getting hurt and I'm barely doing anything. I wonder what it's like for my friends who are classical musicians, who are playing all of these concerts and have all these gigs and auditions lined up. And sure enough, when I started asking around, they're like, "Oh yeah, my wrist hurts. Oh yeah, my elbow hurts. Oh yeah, my shoulder hurts." And then I realized, oh my gosh, there's so many people who are getting hurt. It's ridiculous. And in my first year of physical therapy school, my first and last year of physical therapy school, and that's another story. I actually went to school I went to Columbia's medical program on 168th, but I actually lived on 125th right by International
Ah.
House. Yeah, yeah.
When were you there?
Sorry?
What year? Because I studied at Columbia.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I probably walked past you at some point, I feel
It's
like. Because I didn't go to 125th really much, but like that area, I don't know if you came to the main campus much, but
I did. Yeah,
yeah.
my
When were you
twin
there?
brother.
Which year?
Yeah, so I started physical therapy school in 2019.
Ah,
My twin brother went to Columbia for engineering from 2014 to 2018,
okay.
and we would visit each other all the time on like different campuses. So there is a possibility
So
that
I
we
was
might have
in the
like,
same class as your twin brother then.
yeah, I mean, we might have gone to JJ's together and not known it. Like,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
JJ's the burgers.
Oh my
That
gosh,
was
those
like my
burgers.
favorite place to get breakfast because no one went there and all I wanted was like really good omelet or scrambled eggs. And I would just be there alone in the morning and JJ's it's nice to
Yeah.
meet someone related to Colombia in some ways, but I interrupted you. I got excited. Go back
No,
to
no, no,
your
that's
main
great. I mean,
story.
Jj's Fries are something to get excited about.
Oh
That is
yes.
totally okay. Those were
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, yeah, I was in school for physical therapy. Like I said, for 1 year, I'm not claiming to be a physical therapist.
Mm.
And what happened is I went to school. I lived across the street from Manhattan School of Music. And I became the guy on the floor who is known as, oh, that's David. He's like the PT that wants to work with
Ah.
musicians. And eventually people would just come up to me and be like, hey, David, like my neck hurts from singing opera. I'm like, okay, man, like let's talk about it. I mean, I can't diagnose you, I can't prescribe you, but I have a degree. I am an exercise physiologist. Let's talk about it and see what's going on. And
Hmm.
again, it's just the common problems over and over again. Whether it was a
So, what are the
yeah.
common problems? I guess from all of your experiences and interactions with musicians, what are three things, let's say, that are
Oh,
most
okay.
common?
Top three, I would say problems with your wrist because
Mm.
it's such a focal point. No
Yeah.
matter what instrument you play, obviously vocalists, it's a little different, but vocalists, I would say problems with tension in your shoulders and in your
Mm.
neck
Hmm.
because it's just, and especially if you sing opera because there ain't no microphone, so you are just projecting the whole day.
Yeah.
That seemed to be a problem.
Huh.
But I would say for instrumentalists, it's a lot of wrist, it's a lot of forearm,
Hmm.
and it's a cross between the elbow and the the like shoulder right here.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah.
So then, what would be the top three advice that you would always give?
Oh my gosh. Oh, I've been waiting to say this. So top three advice: you need to ask yourself why you're doing things. And this is what really attracted like me to your content, Tiffany, because
Oh.
you think so deeply about things and you're like, hey, why am I doing this? Why are we supposed to be kind and keep striving? And really ask yourself why you're doing something. If you're in a practice room playing for 4 hours, pretty standard, but what's making you play for that extra 4? What's making you play even more than that, making you stay up to 2, 3 a.m.? Obviously, you have a lot of repertoire, and that's completely understandable. I've never been to music school. That is something that is so far removed from me, that I only hear about from the musicians I speak to. But the insecurity is what really starts the overuse injuries. That's the problem, I think. So you have to ask yourself, hey, why am I playing for so long? Why am I trying to master this piece for someone who I'm trying to impress who I don't even like? You need to ask yourself why you are, excuse me, so sorry. I'm trying to keep my voice down. You know what? I'm not going to keep my voice down anymore. If I wake people up, I wake people up.
Oh, sorry. I don't want to get you in
No,
trouble.
don't worry about it. And for the record, this I'm in an Airbnb right now. So give some people context. But I think so. The number one reason I would say is do not play for long periods of time. Ask yourself why you are playing. Put yourself and say, like, hey, do I have a practice plan? What am I trying to get out of this practice session? Rather than say, oh, I'm just going to play 6 hours today. Okay, why? What's your reasoning behind that? So that's number one. Number two, I would say is, oh my goodness, there's a litany of reasons,
Can I ask
but
a spin-off from your
of
first point,
course,
actually? You
yeah.
say don't play for a long period of time. To me, a long period of time could sometimes be even 30 minutes based on what I'm doing. Like if I'm drilling octaves, jumps, that's like intense work. It's a
Yeah.
workout in itself. So do you have like average time that you usually find out as like the optimal time before you take a break or not play at all? Or...
I've asked a lot of hand therapists and physical therapists and musicians and musical educators that happen to be both. I ask a lot of them in my network, and they give me a range anywhere between 30, like you said, 30 minutes to 45, 50 minutes or an hour. And you're the artist, so you have to decide what works for you. I don't think there's any
Yeah,
standard rule that can apply to somebody,
yeah.
but that's usually like the optimal
But at
time. And
least,
if you are,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
some form of reference. So,
exactly.
yeah.
And
Oh,
the longer
interesting.
you play, the more breaks you should take. Like
Yeah,
that's a solid rule of thumb.
yeah.
Hmm.
Cool. Okay. Do
Yeah.
you have a second point, or is that your second point? I'm just
No,
very
no, no, no.
fascinated by your background because so many people ask me, how do you avoid injuries? And knock on wood, that's my piano wood there. I haven't really had much major injury or
Mhm,
injuries in general. I think I'm just very well aware of how my body feels. So then if I'm tired,
mhm,
I stop. Like yesterday, I was practicing Brahms concerto, and at a certain point after 45, maybe an hour, I was like, I'm getting tired. Let me take a lunch break and just not play for like an hour or an hour and a half. So in general, I'm just very aware of how I feel. So that's probably why I haven't had an injury again. I don't want to jinx myself, but
mhm.
that's why it's very interesting for me to hear, and I think it would be very interesting for many people to hear from your um, experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you nailed it. And I know in your FAQ video that you just did, you talked about one of the common questions you get is, hey, how much do you practice? And you would always say, I practice anywhere between 0 to 4 to 5 hours a day. I think that was your
Yeah,
answer. And I loved
yeah,
how you included 0 because it's okay not to practice and give the mind and body time to regenerate and learn in
yeah.
another way. Um, and I think that's really what you just said right there. That's what a lot of people miss. We don't stop ourselves from practicing. If we're in a practice room, and I'm guilty of this, definitely. If we're in a practice room and we're really getting into a piece of music and we're just jamming out, after a while, it's like we lose track of time, but our bodies don't. And that's the problem is that our bodies,
Hmm.
we can't run a marathon on our bodies. I'm training for a marathon right now, and it's
Yeah,
exhausting. I have to
yeah,
take breaks. I have to stretch. I have to sleep enough. I cannot run every single day of the week, or I'm going to be toast. So, so I really like how you talk about like, yeah, I was playing, I did a few minutes of the Brahms concerto, and now I'm done. That's awesome. That's really, really awesome.
well, I don't know
But
if it's necessarily awesome. I'd like to still build up my stamina, but I totally understand also. And yeah,
mhm,
but so let's say someone came to you and was like, I have certain pain. The first question I guess you
okay.
ask is, why do they have this pain? Like what what's the reason that they practice this long and work so hard? So then what would be the next step?
I would ask them, what physical habits do you have during the day? It could be, and I don't like saying exercise because I think some musicians are allergic to the word, and that's totally fine. But what do you do for your body other than play your instrument? Because playing our instrument feels good, it feels amazing. But what else do you do for your body? Do you run? Do you take a Zumba class? Do you do yoga? Is there some sort of physical habit that you do? And that gives me a lot more context on, okay, what are they doing that might be causing this pain, or what are they not doing that could be causing this pain?
So then what is something that you tell people after knowing that you are saying, oh, you should be doing this because this is not something that you would do?
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that I would say is pick a physical habit. So, like, even having exercise bands, honestly, simple baby steps, simple stuff. It's kind of like brushing your teeth. If you can work on your shoulders and, your neck, little bit of there's a muscle right here called the serratus anterior. Work on that a little bit. Work on your back. Work on general strength. It's simple. It's very,
Yeah.
very simple. And it's not the fun stuff. It's not the stuff that's going to
No.
give you a six pack in the gym. And that's okay. It's the boring brushing your teeth, day-to-day stuff that if you implement this into not only your practice, but your life in general, you're going to find things are way less tense. You're going to find you feel stronger and more confident. And I think that's the key factor. With all the musicians I've seen who have pain, and the musicians that I want to see in the future clinic that I want to build, one of the things that I always see is that, again, that underlying insecurity that I'm not enough, and
Yeah.
that it thwarts every attempt of getting over injury because they're like, oh, I'll start working out for 2 weeks because I know I have to. It's like, whoa, you don't have to do anything. You need to figure out why, and that's so. And again, I know it's bleeding back to number one, but it's important. I've seen a
Yeah,
lot of
it's a good
patients who
point.
come into yeah, I've seen a lot of patients who come to physical therapy. They do their exercises, they're fine, and then 2 months later, they come back with the same problem. They didn't have a reason to keep doing their exercises. They had no why, so therefore they came right back again with the same shoulder problem.
Hmm. Do you have like one uh common exercise you recommend for pianists? I'm being selfish here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I think it's hard because I do want to say, yeah, this is a great exercise for pianists. This is a great exercise for guitarists, but we're
It's
human.
probably hard because everyone is different and their habits are different, but
Yeah.
yeah, I
I
don't know.
would.
I guess some people say their wrist hurts. I think this is like something I get a lot, and I'm just kind of
Mhm.
remembering what I get asked, and I don't have an answer to that because I'm
Yeah.
just like, if it hurts, stop playing. I was like, but no one wants to hear that, you know? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, duh.
Absolutely.
But that's kind of mean, but at the same time, it's, you have to let your body rest. So I'm
Mhm.
just, what kind of
Yeah.
exercise, let's say you have a wrist pain or something like that.
I think a great idea for pianists because you guys are sometimes hunched over those keys for
Yeah,
God
I
knows
have
how
that problem.
long.
I'm also very, very conscious of my back right now because,
Okay.
you're talking about exercise and kind of just your physical habits. And I definitely know that I have that issue of,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And like I call this like the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Even
No,
if
I
you
call
play
it a
the
turtle
piano or like a
just for the shell. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I would say what you can do if you are a pianist, I would say find a room in your practice room. Wait, find a wall. There we go. Find a wall in your practice room. And if you've ever made a snow angel before and you sort of spread, and I'm close to a wall right here, so I cannot do my full range of motion.
Hmm.
But if you just lean back against the wall, relax your knees a little bit, and then make a snow angel and use your shoulders to move up and down, that is something that really, really helps. I
Oh,
mean, the
wow.
wrist pain might not even be wrist pain. It might be the fact that your shoulder is in a tough place.
Yeah,
And if
like
you're
a
told,
block in the circulation, probably.
yeah, locking the circulation, making it really difficult, there's something we call active and passive insufficiency. And that's super medical. And I don't want to get into a lot of it. But what happens is when the shoulder is forward sometimes, that means that other muscles have to work harder because the shoulder isn't doing its job. It's like a group project. If you've ever been in a group project where you were the only one doing the work, but everyone else wasn't, at the end of the day, you get really frustrated and tired. That's kind of like what happens with the wrist, right?
Yeah.
The wrist is going to get frustrated and tired because the forearms aren't pulling their weight.
Yeah.
The elbow is in a tough place and it's not pulling its weight. And the shoulders and the big muscles in the back, they're not pulling their weight. So all the
Yeah.
little muscles in the forearm and the wrist are doing all of the group project. And that's why they get pretty angry.
Yeah. No, it makes total sense. I mean, it's a whole different, I mean, it's a whole group of different elements that not only makes you feel a certain way, but also makes the sound a certain way when you play. So, wow. You know, I kind of want you to be on my on my YouTube channel just because you have so many advice that would help so many people and who have asked me so many questions that I can't answer about injuries. But
Mhm.
we'll think about that. But I think
Sure.
this is great. Thank you so much.
Of
Last thing
course.
I want to ask is what are your plans? I think you mentioned you want to start a clinic or something. I know you're already doing some podcast, and maybe you can uh, preview a little bit or intro a little bit because I can
Of
also
course.
link your podcast episode with me later that we're going to do in I guess 10 minutes. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So future plans, I know that from what I've seen, to summarize it and put it in like 10 sentences, what I've seen is a lot of injuries can be prevented. They really can. And it's so much easier to prevent an injury than to get over one.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start group exercise classes for musicians, really simple stuff. I used to teach
Hmm.
Zumba, and like, so I
Ah.
kind of miss that. And yeah, we're going to be starting simple, again, simple exercises. People are like, oh, but I can't work out. Like, I'm not good at it. It's okay. It's okay. Like, join us and I'll show you, hey, listen, moving your shoulders in a particular way, you're going to feel better when you play. And if you do it consistently, my God, you're going to feel amazing as a musician. So that's something I'm starting.
Hmm.
Another thing that I'm doing is future plans. I want to build a clinic, and I'm not going to treat the patients. I'm going to greet the patients, and I'm really pumped to hire physical therapists, to hire performance psychologists, maybe a massage therapist or two, and have them be people that actually cater to musicians, that know what it's like to lug your instrument through a subway turnstile or to be late for a gig. I think
Hmm.
there's a lack of understanding in the medical field about who we are and what we do. And New York City it's my place. It's my place. It's my home.
Yeah.
Even though I'm recording this in Idaho right now,
Ah, you're in Idaho.
it is my home.
Mhm.
And I want to return and build a clinic for musicians by musicians. And that's the dream. That is the dream, one bit at a time.
Yeah, and I'm excited for you. Also, it sounds really exciting. I mean, I guess it kind of sucks that we're in this social distancing um
Mhm.
moment and well, not really moment. It's very long of a moment, but um I guess that kind of deters some of your plans, but still it's very exciting. And also, do you want to talk a little bit about your podcast before
Of
I jump
course.
over?
Absolutely, absolutely. So the Condition Musician podcast is something I started by accident. Again,
Hmm.
a friend was like, "Hey, David, you know you're going into business with musicians. You should start a podcast." And I went, "Okay." So I started it in my parents' closet, and
Hmm.
I started realizing, wait, I need to bring in musicians. We need to talk about what's going on, and not just the injury side of things, because that can get a little stale after a while. But talk about it. Hey, what does it actually mean to be a musician? What do you do when you feel burned out? What motivates you to keep moving forward? And actually talking about the artist. And we have some people who have gone from not being able to close their hands around a cup to like back to playing, and we look at the journey between that.
Hmm.
And it's I don't even know what it is yet. I think I'll know after about 300 episodes. But the more and more I talk to musicians about their stories and where they come from and how they got through injury or burnout, I get messages from my DMs from people all over the world saying, David, I love your podcast. Like, it's giving me hope. And I'm like, that's it. Then I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah,
And that's what it's about. So if you want to check it out, you just look up The Conditioned Musician.
I'll
So
link
like
it
air
in the
conditioner.
yeah, I'll
And we
look
will
it in the
totally link it.
description.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah. And
exciting.
conditioned like air conditioner in past tense, but The Conditioned Musician podcast. And it's available on all of your streaming platforms. And yeah, pretty much there. There's no YouTube channel for it yet. I am no Tiffany Poon, but
No, I mean, I'm. Some people ask me to make this into a podcast, but I don't know. It's a whole different enterprise. We'll see. But yeah, thank you so much. I'm excited to come onto your podcast. So if people want to go on, here's your chance.
awesome. Awesome. We'll put them
Yeah.
in the description below.
Exactly. Thank you so
Awesome.
much. Thanks, David, for coming on, and thank you for watching. I hope you learned something with me. I did. So go check out his podcast if you want to listen to our episode. If you want more episodes of Classical Chats, don't forget to subscribe. Will we reach 10,000 subscribers? I don't know by the end of the year, but Anyway, I will see you soon.